So we're now recording. Okay, my name is Jill Wilson and I am from the Equality Practice, and I am launching a new podcast, and my first guest today on the new podcast, which is named Including Me, is the wonderful, fantastic businesswoman, entrepreneur of North East Lincolnshire, Ruchita Green of Masala Masters. Welcome, Ruchita. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Jill. That was a glowing introduction. I'm very well, thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Thanks, Ruchita. I'm here today to ask you about, or to highlight the work that you do with us, the Equality Practice, on the anti-racism agenda. So you've been very active with us most of the time that we've actually been in business. You've done some work on the hidden heritage agenda. You've done work on the bread from home, which we did on the market. And now we've got another anti-racist, sort of highlighting the value of difference project, which we have embarked on recently. And I'd like to ask you, Ruchita, what motivates you to get involved with the work that we do?
I think the biggest motivator is, first of all, seeing that you are enthusiastic about it, because as a person from a minority background and who stands out like a sore thumb anyway, it's always something that is on my mind, because I have to consciously make myself be, I need to adjust myself in order to be included in the community, or to be accepted by the community. But I'll tell you a little humorous anecdote relating to this. So when I first moved to the UK, I moved to Manchester, and of course Manchester, you couldn't tell whether you were in India or anywhere else, because there's such a lovely mix of people. But then we moved to Cleethorpes in 2007, and I literally felt like I was the only one here. I couldn't see anyone that looked like me or looked different to you. And so I was extremely conscious at first to even go out and interact with people. And one of the funny things that happened was in 2008, my sister came to visit from India. And so of course we'd been to like the local curry houses and things like that for dinner. And then my sister came to visit from India in 2008, and we went down to London just, for a weekend. And we were going down the escalator at one of the tube stations, and I heard somebody come banging down. So you only walk on the left, so you stand on the left or walk on the right. And somebody was coming down really fast, and this person came and stood right next to me and looked straight at me. And he was a young Asian boy. He looked at me and he said, "You're from Grimsby, aren't you?" And it just completely took me by surprise. And I thought, we're in London. I mean, if Manchester's, a mixed place, London is absolutely the epitome of that. And he said, "Yeah, I work in one of the Indian restaurants in Grimsby, and I've seen you there." So for someone in that crowd to recognize this one brown person who lives in Grimsby, that explains to you just how I felt. Just by virtue of looking like I do, I stand out. And so for me, it's always a very conscious thing. And then to answer your question about why I was excited to be involved with you, is because this is such a fantastic opportunity for me to actually help other people see that there isn't just me. There are lots of other wonderful cultures in this town, in this region, and it's just a shame that they're not showcased. And all the work that you and Tracy do through the Equality Practice really goes, you work really hard to highlight that, and not just to show that we exist, but also that people are actually contributing massively to the culture, the economy, to the community in this region. So that's why I'd like to be involved, and I will continue to do whatever I can with you.
That is really great to know. And one of the things that I would like to ask you is, because you do your business is Masala Masters, and you actually actively go out into other people's homes and give them a taste of India. So in many ways, you and I have had this conversation, A lot of white people do not interact with people that are different to them in this town. How have you found that process of going into somebody's home, cooking with them and sharing your culture?
I think the advantage of doing something in terms of a business is that you automatically have credibility. So if somebody was to see me on the street, they may not immediately speak to me out of interest or out of curiosity. But if I was saying that here's some food and I'm offering you a service and I'm actually giving you an experience as a business, then you're buying into that idea. And it's almost like going to a curry house. You know, people are perfectly happy and decent and nice to anyone who works there or anyone who serves them their food, and they really enjoy their night out. And I think that kind of translates into the business as well. The thing that I found a little bit surprising was that a lot of people who enjoy curry and who love Indian food will automatically assume that they know what I'm talking about. And in that sense, because I try to bring something different. So the idea of Masala Masters is that you get to experience dishes that you may not find in your favorite curry house. And that for me as a personal value is inclusion is a personal value for me as well. And that kind of extends to these other businesses who are doing amazing things. They're feeding their families, they're making money. And I don't want to be the one to say, don't go to them, come to me, which is why I've designed it in a way where you could still have me cook for you, but you could still go back to your curry house to eat your favorite curry. And so for me to actually justify why they're paying me this money, it's important to explain that this is different food. It's not the same thing. It's cooked differently, it's fresh, and it's all that sort of thing. And so often there are times when evenings will start with some of the guests or the host saying, oh yeah, I know what you're doing. Oh yeah, this goes in next or that goes in next. And then by the end of the evening, when they've tasted the food, realizing actually, yeah, we didn't know what she was talking about. And this is a little bit different. So in that sense, it's almost like a preconceived notion that I get approached with. You're different. We know who you are. We know what you're about. And that is the challenge for me. That challenge of breaking down, actually, no, you don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm glad that you are open to understanding it, and by the end of the evening changing your opinion of it. And in many ways, in terms of the work that you do on inclusion and equality and even the anti-racism thing, it feeds into that as well, that when you look at somebody, you make this automatic assumption that you know what they're about, you know their backstory, you know why they're here, and you treat them like that, whereas the story behind it is completely different.
Yeah. We as you know, you've worked on projects with us at Grimsby Town Football Club, and lots of people, they might have been to the curry house, or they might have been to the Chinese takeaway, or they might have always gone to the corner shop where the Pakistani family are running, but they've never interacted with people. They've never had a conversation, about family, about friendships, about business. And the opportunity to actually meet people that are different to us and share their backgrounds, their backstory, brings people to life. And you do that eloquently and very well. Eloquently is a good word. I like that word. But you do it really well. You're out on the Freeman Street Market, or have been in the past, before we went into lockdown. And you're quite well known in the area. I say Ruchita Green to most people, and most people go, I know Ruchita. You have become visible though, Ruchita, and you've done something that a lot of people have not either managed to do or haven't tried to do. You've made a thing out of your difference. You've showcased your difference.
I think one of the things that people within the minority community also need to understand, that unless you are open and unless you show that you are willing to take one step forward, it becomes very difficult for somebody who's not used to seeing people like you to actually take that first step. I mean, it's unfair to assume that anyone who is a bit conscious of interacting with people with a difference is immediately against them. There's a big factor of being unaware of how to approach somebody. We'd all love to be in a society where everybody's just comfortable with each other. Nobody makes a difference on, based on how somebody looks or where they come from. But there is no denying that, especially in an area like ours where there isn't that much exposure. And I think that exposure thing comes from both sides. Because we have a smaller population of minority groups, but at the same time, they tend to stay within themselves as well. And again, you can't blame them, because if you're not comfortable going out, you're going to want to stay within your own groups and things like that. But also, I think that it's very important for this to actually open up that conversation and say, not everybody out there is out to get you. It's important to show your vulnerability and to show that you're willing to mix. And so that's almost like an invitation for people to meet you at your own level, rather than try and make you feel like they feel. If you know what I mean.
I know what you're trying to say. What would you say to somebody like me who has never mixed or had a conversation with somebody that doesn't look like them and feel a little bit nervous? And I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but there are people that feel nervous that they're going to offend you, they're going to say the wrong thing because they don't know culturally if they should look you in the eyes, if they should shake your hand. They really don't know the nuances of difference and what might offend. So what tends to happen is people just ignore. So if you could give a little bit of advice to somebody like me about how they might be able to approach you, what would it be?
I'd say consider as any other stranger you might meet. Where you have to make small talk with someone who is the same color as you, the same, background as you, you wouldn't have that hesitation in just asking, so how's your day today? Where are you from? What do you do? And it's kind of the same thing. The only thing that you probably need to build in, if you are conscious as a result of how somebody looks or where they come from, is again this idea of being open. Being open that if you do make a mistake, that having the confidence to say, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say, but this is what I want to say. And then if you're open, chances are the person who you're speaking to understands that you're respecting their heritage or where they come from, but they're just unaware of how to word it. Chances are this person will be more open to helping you learn how you say certain things, or what words are okay, what words aren't. I think media, social media, anything you hear in the news has a lot to do with, again, these preconceived notions. So the preconceived notion that somebody like me might take offense at something you say without even questioning, why are you saying that? That again is something that has been built up over time. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen. There are a lot of people who get offended very easily, but then there's all sorts of people who get offended easily with the smallest of things. So I think being open is key. Being open to the idea that, yeah, you might make a mistake, but then being willing to say, I'm sorry, didn't mean to say that. This is what I meant. And then being willing to have that conversation rather than assume anything you say is going to be offensive. And if you feel anything you're going to say is going to be offensive, it's probably offensive to more than just people who don't look like you. So, yeah. I mean, I think you are naturally the sort of person who doesn't think about what they say, that's the conversation.
You and I have had these conversations before. I've made some gaffes with you, but I think my experience of working and making friends with people that are very different to me has always been that if they know that I'm coming from a good place, if they don't think I'm trying to be offensive, even if I manage to be offensive unintentionally, which I have, people are very forgiving. No, they just like people. People make mistakes. So Ruchita, we've done our
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. I mean, I'm sure.
Sorry, Ruchita. We could talk all day, but I'm conscious of the time. So I'm going to draw it to a close, and I'm going to say to you, please come back. Please talk to me again in the future. We've always got lots to say, and we'll stop this recording and we'll carry on. You know what we're like. Thank you, Ruchita. I hope to be.
All right. Thank you so much, Jill. This was really good.
Thank you.
Take care.
And you.